David, just congratulations. You just keep
Thank
making
you.
one film after another that is so fantastic. And
That are
speaks,
different.
yeah, and different. You know, you keep pushing and pushing in unexpected directions. It's very exciting to see.
Thank you.
What, just, the film hasn't even opened yet. Of course, the public just saw it last night for the first time, but what's already happening kind of in the viral world and with reactions and what's going on
Well,
out there?
there's definitely, there's a lot of stuff happening on the internet because, of course, it's a movie sort of about that world. I mean, the movie, is hopefully about bigger things than technology, but certainly it's, but, there are a lot of non-denial denials, a lot of, very fervent denials, and we expected that, and there are people who are really championing the movie and really like it, and there are other people who, take issue with it being slight or whatever. But movies are movies, and they're not decided in the first week, and they're not decided in the first weekend. They're, takes, 5-6 years to really tell about whether or not you made something that was worth talking about.
Well, people will be talking about this, that's for sure, for a long time. It's a film that speaks so much of what's going on today, and it's just so damn entertaining and riveting from the outset. 24 hours ago, we were up here with the rest of your collaborators and the actors, and I'm just wondering, yesterday we found out that neither Jesse nor Andrew had seen the film. Did they actually see it last night?
Yeah, they saw it last night. We screwed their feet to the floor and made them kind of, because I think it's kind of it's a perfect opportunity to see a movie for the first time with 1,000 people, and it's also a room that I think you could, New York Film Festival, you're going to get people who are appreciative. It's not going to be clay pigeons, yeah. I mean, Jesse seemed very happy, but he's a great actor, so you never know. Andrew, I couldn't find Andrew. He disappeared into the night somewhere.
No, some actors are like that. They have trouble watching themselves on the screen.
And I get that. I mean, I'll probably someday pay somebody to destroy these tapes, but yeah, I mean, it's a horrible way to make a living. Look, there's great perks that come with it, and it's not that tough on you, but in terms of the hours and stuff, but the incredible, giving up of control to somebody else or to so many other people. Has anybody here seen the Casey Affleck's Joaquin Phoenix movie? Okay, I think his rant at the beginning of that movie is really kind of true. It's like, it's a lot, I think for actors, there is revelation and there is digging deep and there is flaying oneself for the camera, but there's also a lot of it is kind of a trained dog thing. It's like and sit and stay and and so I think it's not that it's an incredibly physically taxing thing, but it's a incredibly emotionally and intellectually taxing, and at a certain point there's a lot of technical stuff that kind of gets in the way, and then you have to just deal with God, I wish I'd gotten that laser removed or whatever, that kind of stuff that you have to deal with.
Well, from your point of view, now you're really at the top of your profession now and the top of your game, and you keep pushing it. But right now, in this profession, what are the greatest satisfactions you find in your work, and conversely, what are the greatest frustrations or uncertainties or fears what's it like to be in your position right now in the industry?
My life has been kind of tailored, and I've kind of been built for middle age. I spent most of my teens working, 6-day weeks and 14-hour days at, either Industrial Light Magic or making television commercials, and, kind of struggling through my 20s to, be able to be taken seriously. I remember when the first music video I ever made, I made it in San Francisco, and I made it with the local technicians that I knew, that I'd sort of come up with, and guys you sort of call your friends and you get everything together, and it was a pretty big budget, and I remember turning to the first assistant cameraman and saying, I want to be like right about here, and I want to be like on a 24 millimeter, and I want to track across, and he looked at me, and he was about 40, and he looked at me and he said, really? And I remember just going, I just want to be in a 24, right? Like, I don't want to negotiate with you. I want to, like, I went out and got $150,000 to make a video, and I'm hiring you, and now you're, and so I spent a good, 10 or 15 years trying to kind of get past that point. I wanted to be able to be a point where I could go, here's what I want, and because that's, by getting those things there, everybody thinks, it's all about getting the stuff there, but getting the stuff there is just that's just the starting gate. It's making everything work after that point. So when you go to a crew, you turn to 90 people, and you have all these faces sort of looking at you like, what do you want to do next? Which is a terrifying thing, because you have to have, whether it's for real or whether it's fake, you have to have confidence, because human beings they don't want to be led by somebody who's like, oh God, I don't know. What do you guys think? They want somebody who's going to definitively say, here's what we're going to do, and this is going to be righteous and God-fearing, and that's the way it has to be. And so it takes you 10 or 15 years to get comfortable enough to just go, dude, it's my way or the highway. You have to be able to do that. And so I've spent, it wasn't until I was 40 that I could kind of go, here's what we're doing, here's exactly what we're doing, here's all I want, and mean it, and people would sort of go right away. And so the last 8 years have been, figuring out how to make the process efficient for the areas of it that I like, that I enjoy. I know that I have to go on Tech Scouts, and I know that I have to walk into a room and discuss for people where the light's going to come from and what the intent of the scene is and how basically it's going to be constructed. But then the part that's interesting to me is the part when you have it all set up and there are people playing dress up in front of the camera and getting that thing to work. And that's the interesting part, that's the fun part, and that's the entree. Everything else is foreplay and appetizer. It's like, that's the thing you got to get. That's what it's all about. That's what you're spending the dough on. And so, so in the past 8 years, I've kind of been able to, I guess, make the process work for me a little bit better, make it work for me a little bit more, so that my energy is spent on the shooting of the minimal amount of takes that it requires to complete a setup.
Well, you've been working up to, it's great because you're feeling that you finally achieved this position where you can do that. So many of the great directors, the era when you were just getting involved in the 70s, and late so peaked with their first 1 or 2 or 3 films, and from then on it was kind of a downhill slope. And there is a need to fight that complacency, I would think, that settles in with the money and the attention and the approval and all that.
Well, I think, the good news is I haven't been ridiculously successful. And I haven't made the kind of money that would, no, but I mean, if you make Jaws, you get to decide where the sun rises, you get to go, over there would be good, and that's a different thing, when, it's all a process, you're hopefully, the making of the movie is the process, the getting the movie funded is a process, the getting the script right is a process, the putting 5 movies together, I'm happy with, I feel like I'm, to me it's like you want to put 2 together back to back, or you want to do 3 in a row, or you want to do, that are different and successful on their own terms and interesting and God, you want to learn from them. You want to not, I don't want to be an applied scientist. When people say, oh, well, you're just going to take that and make it all moody. That's when no, that's not the intention. The intention is to do something a little bit different.